Hey everyone, my name's Silver. Welcome back to my channel. If you guys couldn't tell by the name of this episode, or by the name of the video title and thumbnail, this is my Shiranui deck profile. So guys, this is post, or just before, I think it's post. It's before GB14 where we get the Shiranui support. So I'm going to go over my deck. Down in the description should be a deck list of what the complete deck would look like. So guys, a lot of the decks I own aren't necessarily, as you would say, complete, but they do have complete. I do have a complete list for them. And over these next few deck profiles, I'm only doing one tonight because it's about 4 a.m. and I'm super tired and I'd like to go to bed. But I wanted to get this uploaded, edited, and all that stuff beforehand. So that's why we're getting here. And guys, you're looking at a new background. I don't know if you can tell, but there is some stuff going on here. We got some Pokemon themed stuff all around. Decks. I sort of spent about 2.5 hours reorganizing my desk for this type of stuff, so I can record videos with my phone, upload them, then edit the titles and descriptions and tags and all that stuff. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the Grade 0 starter and then the G-Zone. Then we'll move over to Grade 3s, the Grade 2s I use, the Grade 1s, and the Grade 0s. So starting off, we're using the Trial Deck starter, Stealth Dragon Mandolo. I don't know how to say that. And I'm also extremely tired, so reading is going to become a challenge here. So let's see how well this goes over. So its skill is, if you don't know, it's a front runner, and its other auto skill is GB1. Put this unit into Soul when a dominated unit attacks during your turn. You may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card, choose up to one of any player's rear guards, and it gets 3k power. So I like this card, but I'm hoping Bushiroad will release a much better starter for the Dominate deck. Or something different to give us a bit of options, because we really don't have options when running the Shiranui Dominate. So we're going to move on into the G-Zone now. So as you guys can see, I have that secret rare of the Evil Eye Hades Emperor Shiranui Murakuo. And yes, being I only technically would run a max of 2 in this deck of this unit, I like this SGR art, so I plan on keeping it. But if you guys don't know what the skill is Soul Blast 2. Choose a unit face down from your G-Zone, turn it face up. Choose a card from hand and discard it. Stand and dominate all your opponent's vanguards and attack for that battle. That vanguard, it battles all your opponent's rear guards. So this is very nice. You get a nice twin drive off this, unless the vanguard has a skill. And it's just a nice main vanguard. You probably saw it in last week's episode, Chrono versus Kazuto's brother. I always forget his name. I just call him the Shiranui user because I still believe he's diff-rated by Shiranui. But honestly, I love the art of this card. It's just beautiful. And yeah, so I have 1, but I would run probably 2 at best. So this, I believe you'd run 4. I can't remember off the top of my head. Like I said, deck list down below. But this is Edmund Stealth Dragon Moda. I can't read friggin' Japanese words today. Or names. Counterblast 1. Choose a card face down from your G-Zone with the same name as this card. Or wait. Choose a face down card with the same card name as this unit from your G-Zone and turn it face up. Choose one of your opponent's rear guard and it gets 3k until end of turn for each face up card in your G-Zone. Stand and dominate that unit. Attacks your opponent's cards and retire the dominated unit. So I have only 1 right now, but I'd run 2 just to pay its cost. Honestly, this is about the only good first strat in the deck. As of right now, there's probably better units to run, but I wouldn't run this in all honesty. I mean, you could, yeah. I only run 2 at best. I think some people run it at 4, but I don't see the potential or the use. I run the Igman Stealth Dragon Trial Deck unit, which is at the beginning of your battle phase. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards. Stand and dominate it and attack your opponent's other unit. I have 2, just sort of fill out my G-Zone. I'd probably only run 1, otherwise it's sort of just here for paying costs and stuff. So yeah, we run 2 of those. Now, this is the card you would mainly run, Ignorant Stealth Rogue Mujin Lord, which is Counterblast 1, choose a card with the same name as this card from your G-Zone, turn it face up. Choose up to the same number of rearguards at any player's rearguards as the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone, and they get 4k until end of turn. Stand all of your opponent's rearguards and that were chosen and dominate them for each, and each attacks your opponent's vanguard until end of turn. So this card is good. So if you have 8 cards face up in your G-Zone, you choose 8 units, and they get 4k until end of turn. So that means the 4 units you dominate on your opponent's side, or the 3, and the 5 on your side. It's a nice power bonus. We run 4 of this guy. 1, so you can use him twice, and 2, he's a main staple of the deck. Next, I run 4 copies of the Dominate G-Guard, because I'm poor and I didn't have anything else. So, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, when this is placed on G-Guard, you may pay the cost. Choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or grade 1 units in his or her back row, dominate, and move it to the guard circle. So this is nice for G-Guarding against Garmor decks. Decks that build a really powerful boosting columns. So you can just say, nope, G-Guard. And I'm going to take that booster away from you, so your power decreases by bucket loads, and I get that as a nice intercept. So we run 4 of it, just because I'm poor, and because deck filling out. Now, I haven't really counted because I added some cards to my G-Zone, so we'll count now. 4, 8, 10, 12... And the last 4 cards just surprisingly worked out. We run 1 Seabreeze, but I run Seabreeze in almost every single deck. I only have 1 copy, so he jumps around for a lot of my decks. You'll see the sleeve a lot. I run 1 Dismal, because I can't seem to locate my other Dismal that's popping around in one of my many, many decks. We run 1 of the GB8 units for it, the Nubatama one. When this unit's placed on... When your opponent's unit's placed on guard from hand, you may pay the cost of a Counterblast or Soul Blast. If you do, your opponent chooses 2 cards from hands and discards them. So, nice sort of final turn. And then we run 1 of the Fighters Collection G-Guards. Choose a card from hand, discard it. When this is placed on guard circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card. I run a couple in the deck, but it's just sort of here in this deck. So that's the G-Zone plus starter. And honestly, this deck is pretty consistent when I play with it. Some people say it wasn't all that great, but I do think it gets better in time. So, yeah. We're going to put the Shiranui unit to the front while we stand this up here. Oh, my Pokecoin fell. I have a handful of these. If you guys want to see Pokemon content, leave a comment down below. I do have 2 decks over there that you can see, a Lichen Rock one and a Lowen Vulpix deck. So if you want to see those deck profiles, let me know down below. Alright, moving on to the grade 3s. And I'm going to stop reading skills. You guys can, again, look up everything as we go. Or try to read the card effect. I'd try. But we're running 1 copy of a main Dominate grade 3. We're running 2 backup grade 3s, Remarkable Stealth Rogue. And then in this deck, we run 4 Shiranui Dominates. Again, this guy's skill is pretty commonly known if you play Vanguard. But since he's a main unit, I'll go over his skill. At the beginning of your ride phase, you may choose a card from your opponent's drop zone. If you do, your opponent calls that card to rear. And at the end of turn, retire. Dominate when the G unit strides. Choose up to one of your opponent's rear guards. Dominate its stand. And until end of turn, it gets 4k and attacks your opponent's other unit. So the grade 3 lineup is pretty decent right now, but with the new Shiranui Blaze unit coming out, you're going to want to be running 4 copies of that and 3 copies of this, or 3 copies of that and 4 copies of this. It depends on which one you like better. I personally like the new one, so I'll be running my max of 4 copies of him, and my G-Zone fell over. So, yeah. I prefer the new Zetin over Oboro. But we'll move on to the grade 2 lineup of this deck. So, we're running 4 copies of the 10k starter. Why? Because when you're giving your units power boosts, like 4k, 3k, it's going to start equaling what a lot of people have referred to as the magic columns. So they're columns that get a little bit more difficult to guard. Instead of just adding 5k to a 9, you're now adding 4k, 5k, so they have to drop a 20k shield. So it equals nice columns. We're also running 4 copies of the grade 2 from the trial deck, which is Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 when a dominated unit attacks during your turn. If you have a Vanguard with Shiranui in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card and give this card 2k. It's a main staple of the deck. I'm honestly going to be outfitting these 2 commons for 2 more hollows when I can. But good card. I love the art of this card as well. And then last but not least, we're running the main staple of the grade 2 lineup, which is Stealth Dragon Furboru, which he has 2 steals, and being he's a staple like the rest of these units in this lineup are, I'm going to go over his skill. Choose 1 card from your opponent's drop zone. Your opponent calls that card to his or her open rear guards, and at end of turn retires them. So this sort of fills out any potential problems you might have with dominating later in the game. If your opponent doesn't have a lot of units and your stride requires you to choose more than 1, you just have 2 of this guy lying around on your field, you activate both their skills and you get 2 new units. He also has one other skill. When another unit attacks during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Shiranui in its card name, this unit gets 2k. This is good for a lot of reasons. Again, with this deck's theme of taking your control of your opponent's units and using them to attack the Vanguard, this just becomes a super main staple. So, you say you get 5 attacks off, that's another 10k before he even attacks. So it's very good. And that's why I went over his skill. So, yep, that's the grade 2 lineup. Moving over to the grade 1s. I'm going to try to keep these as brief as possible and why they're in here. So starting off, I run 2 Stealth Dragon Tethering. And essentially what this guy does is if you have a Shiranui Vanguard, all your opponent's Vanguard's card names, clans, and during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Shiranui in its name, in its card name, all of your opponent's Vanguard's card names, wow. During your turn, your Vanguard with Shiranui in its card name gets all of your opponent's Vanguard's card names, clans, races, and nations. So this is to help prevent decks that sort of run, what's it called? It's not lore, it's Lord. Lord, not lore, but Lord. And then its secondary skill is when it boosts a successful attack that hits the Vanguard. You may pay the cost if you do. Choose one of your opponent's cards from his or her hand and they discard it. It's a staple, so we run 2, but that's about it. It's sort of there for convenience. We run 4 copies of Tempest Stealth Rogue Fukin. Yeah, I don't know what its name. I just so happened to have, like, I think 3 copies of this art lying around and 2 copies of this. So as I to heck with it, we'll take the GB11 art, I think that's 11, and the BT13 art, and we'll just have 2 of each. It will drive some people's OCDs. Legit strat people with OCD will have a hard time focusing on their game, so, especially if you just have, like, 1 of each lying around, it will just drive them mad. So, What's this card skill that I'm using to distract people with, including myself? It's Counterblast 1, put it to soul. If you have a new Batama Vanguard and the number of cards in your opponent's hand is 3 or more, your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand at random, binds it face down, and at end of turn your opponent puts that card that was bound with this effect into his or her hand. We run 4 because magic columns and reducing guarding. Not that we don't do that already enough with this deck. We run 4 copies of the Shiranui G-Guard. It's a G-Guard. It nullifies an attack, and if there's a copy of it in your drop zone, when a dominated unit attack hits the Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, put this into your hand. You essentially put 1 to the bottom, and you get it back. Useful. And my door just shut because of cold air pressure. And then last but not least, we run 4 of the Shiranui Strides. If you don't know what this does, it's now a grade 3 when you drop it from hand for Stride, and it lets you search out Shiranui so you can get rid of the useless grade 3s. I like the art on this card, so doggo for the win. I was trying to keep this video short, but I guess I'm not going to get that lucky, am I? Last but not least, we're running 2 draw triggers. Percentage of soul, choosing to give it 3k. Actually, we're running 4. I forgot I had foils. We run 4 copies. We run 4 heals, and we run 2 crits that countercharge. We run 2 stands. Here's its name if you want to look it up or read the effect. Here, I'll actually do that so you can see. And then we run 4 more crits, because I'm poor and I don't have the Shiranui. What's it called? The Shiranui critical triggers, and I like the draws, so they go to the front. So yeah, that is my Shiranui deck profile. Let me know if you guys liked and enjoyed this video. Write down in the comments below. I'm sorry it's a 17-minute video, but I'm tired and I don't realize how long things get. So until next time, guys, I've been the Silver Wolf, and I'll see you all later. Peace.